feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could take.
Hello beauties, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so I hope you guys are having what is today? Oh yeah, up on my computer. Today's Thursday. Happy Thursday to everyone. So I'm doing a pre-recorded live stream today because for one, I've never done it before, and for two, I kind of wanted this to be pre-recorded because obviously it's very emotional and I don't want to get distracted. I feel like this is something very sensitive to be talking about. So I don't want it to be like stretched out for too long or anything like that. I'm going to keep it short, but I want to tell you about Melody's story, okay, which I felt like it just touched my heart a long time ago when I ran into this story. And it's been, I don't know, it's been very close to me ever since then. So welcome to True Crime Thursdays. This is something that you guys voted on, and I'm definitely loving it. I hope you guys are loving it too. So I'm going to start off by just telling you about Melody and her story, and then I'm going to show you guys a little bit of footage. And then we are just going to, I'm not going to talk too much about my story with DV because I'm not ready to talk about it yet. I had this live scheduled in February. That's how long it has taken me to do this live because it's emotional. You know what I mean? So I definitely wanted to make sure that I did do this live. And I just want to make sure that I let you guys, give you guys as much information as possible. But one day I will share my story with you guys, and I will let other women who have suffered through domestic violence tell their story as well. So the first thing I'm going to bring up is an article because it tells Melody's story and what happened with her. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. You're going to hear silence. Y'all know the drill. So you guys bear with me. I've never done a pre-recorded. It's the same as doing a regular live stream. It's just pre-recorded. So I'm going to read this article and tell you guys a little bit about Melanie and her amazing story. She's very brave. That's what I will say. Now, wait a minute. That's not it. Is that it? Yep, that's it. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to read this to you guys, okay? So it says, Birmingham domestic violence survivor carries a bullet in her brain, wants others to know they're not alone. This is Melody. She's absolutely gorgeous. These are her two children. And you guys seen this picture in my thumbnail. This is her when she was in the hospital. So I'm going to read her story. It says, Melody Megginson remembers very little about May 18, 2019, but it was a night that changed her life forever. 1 minute, the 24-year-old Birmingham mother was home with her 2 sons, one just 6 weeks old. The next, her boyfriend was forcing her at gunpoint into his vehicle. Police found Megginson covered in blood behind an East Birmingham home, unresponsive from a bullet to her brain, with, according to doctors, little chance of survival. So this is obvious, but I just want to make sure that I put a trigger warning because obviously this is very triggering, and I'm sure it's very triggering for many, including myself. So this is not suitable for children, and I'm going to continue reading this for you guys, okay? More than 2 years later, Megginson has survived a coma, 13 surgeries, and successfully fought to regain custody of her 2 sons. Because October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and because Megginson hopes to someday work with victims, she is speaking out about her ordeal. This is Melody speaking, and it says, I just want people to know to look at the red flags. Just because he's not beating you up every day doesn't mean something like that can't happen, Megginson said. Megginson, originally from Oregon, moved to Birmingham several years ago to get to know her father's side of the family. It wasn't long before she met John Neely III, became romantically involved, and then became pregnant with her second son. Nearly 38 at the time, was out of bond on capital murder charge in Connecticut with a August 9, 2016 shooting death of another man in East Birmingham. He had been released from jail on electronic monitoring. Megginson said she had no idea that Neely was facing a capital murder charge and that he had lied to her about the charges against him. His electronic monitoring had been previously modified to allow him to go to work at a new business he had bought. His lawyer in April 2019 then asked that the monitoring be stopped to allow Neely to care for his father following a surgery. On May 15, 2019, Neely was removed from electronic monitoring since he had not had any violations since the monitoring began. Megginson had given birth to their son, Jason, on April 4th, though Neely didn't live together. They didn't live together. They had been staying together since the birth. I was just trying to do what was right and be a family, she said. This is a picture of Melody and her 2 beautiful children. She was 26 at this time, and her son's name is Jason, and her other son's name, I don't think it's on here, but that's her newborn son right next to her. 3 days later, Megginson was shot. The last thing I remember is him forcing me in the car at gunpoint and going down the street, and then everything went blank, she said. I woke up in the hospital. Birmingham police were dispatched at 10:16 p.m. that Saturday to report an unresponsive female in the end of 7,000 block of 4th Avenue South when police arrived. John Neely Jr. and a neighbor were in front of the house using flashlights to flag down police. The officer found Megginson, though they had no idea who she was at the moment, behind a truck, completely covered in blood. The officer wrote in his field report the female was not responsive, but I could see that she was breathing, the officer wrote. Megginson was transported to UAB Hospital by Birmingham Fire and Rescue Service. John Neely Jr. told police the truck belonged to his son. Hold on, lost my place. When asked about the victim, the witness stated that she must have climbed into the truck, the officer wrote. The witness stated that he heard the woman yelling for a while before he came outside to look and saw her in the back of the truck. The witness stated he had no idea why she was in the backyard. Police found a trail of blood from the street up into the yard and then blood under the vehicle where it was parked at the end of the driveway. Police also found blood droplets in the roadway on 4th Avenue South on western side of Oporto Madrid Boulevard. It became apparent that the victim had been driven in a vehicle to the residence, according to the officer's report. Another witness told police that a friend of hers was behind a Chevrolet Tahoe and saw an altercation, heard what he believed a gunshot, and asked officers to check the area 74th Street and 2nd Avenue South for a body. She said she had seen a large amount of blood and a flip-flop. Officers went to the location and confirmed that what the witness found. Based on the direction of the blood trails from both scenes, I believed the incidents to be connected and the investigation was moved to that location, the officer wrote. He noted that ShotSpotter detected a single shot fired at 9:50 p.m. at 7316 3rd Avenue South. Another officer went to UAB Hospital to check on Megginson, who was immediately taken into surgery. The bullet was still lodged in her brain. She did not have any identification on her and remained a Jane Doe for at least a day. The doctors at UAB stated it was unlikely the victim would survive her injuries, the officer stated in the report. Megginson said Neely took her children, later dropping them off at the fire station. Ultimately, they both were separated and put into state custody. This is Megginson in the hospital. God bless her. She had 13 surgeries. Megginson remained hospitalized for about 2 months. She has undergone 13 surgeries, the most recent earlier this year. The bullet remains lodged in her brain and is too risky to remove. She has a shunt that runs from her brain to her stomach and continuously drains fluid from her brain. The right side of her face is paralyzed and she is deaf in her right ear. A weight was inserted into her eyelid so it could close when she sleeps. It's because of God, she says, that she survived all of this. And TBI, traumatic brain injury, is what I have, she said. At first, I was really angry. I had to relearn to walk. I was just really snappy. It's weird to be normal 1 minute and not normal the next. There are emotional scars as well. Megginson still has nightmares and often struggles with anxiety. Certain things make me jump, she said. Even though I don't remember the shooting, my brain remembers. Certain things put me on defense, and I have to work through that, she said. It's part of the healing process. Megginson is now on disability and no longer working. I'm adjusting, trying to get to know the new me. Excuse me. Eventually, Megginson regained custody of both of her sons. I was having to fight to my kids back like I was a crackhead or something, she said. I was a victim. I'm so happy to have them back, Megginson said. I just want to move on with my life. John Neely III was arrested and charged with attempted murder. In August 2019, he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of first-degree assault and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. At the same time, he pleaded guilty in the capital murder case to a reduced charge of manslaughter. He was given 20 years in that case. Currently, he is incarcerated at Bullock Correctional Facility. His minimum release date is in June 2044. Megginson said, while there was no physical abuse in the relationship, she knows there was emotional abuse that she didn't recognize at the time. Okay, I lost my place again. So let's see here. I grew up with domestic violence, and I always thought he's not putting his hands on me. It's not abuse, she said. But there are different forms of abuse, and we don't pay attention to that. I should have paid more attention to the control of what I was wearing. what I was doing, where I was going. She said, it's not a good sign. Knowing what she knows now, she said, I'd walk away. I don't feel like it's talked about enough, she said. It's scary because it happened out of nowhere. My life was almost taken. Though Megginson has had her boys back for about 8 months, the court case was officially closed last week. She's now hoping to get back to her family in Oregon and has launched a GoFundMe to raise money to get home. Donations can be made here. She said she plans to use her experiences to help others. I want them to know they're not alone, she said, because I felt alone. I'm a survivor, she said. I should be proud of that. That so emotional. Yes, that's absolutely probably one of the strongest women I have read about, especially being so young and so very vulnerable. When you're young, you are vulnerable, and there's a lot of things and a lot of signs, and I think that's amazing that she address those signs. Like, she is able to look back and say there were signs, and I'm so happy that she wants to help others because others need to hear this. I think a lot of people, I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of women and men who excuse me, are in a domestic violence relationship. I think a lot really don't pay attention to the signs of control. And you don't think that verbal abuse and mental abuse can lead to physical abuse. You know, I don't think that is talked about enough. I agree with Melody, and I think it needs to be talked about a lot more often. There is even a huge stigma with domestic violence as well. From now on, I'm going to say DV, but there is a huge stigma with DV, and DV relationships because I think there are still a lot of women and men out there who don't think that they don't think about mental or verbal because I feel like the stigma is DV is only physical. I don't think it's talked about enough and stressed enough that verbal and mental can be just as damaging, if not worse, in my opinion. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys really quick. Hold on, let me pull it up. I'm here. I always put it on mute, y'all, because I don't like you guys to hear the clicking noise. So I'm going to share my screen, and I want you guys to hear Melody's story from Melody. So let me share my screen here.
So right there in the little driveway, that's where the police had found me. They said a woman unresponsive, but was breathing, and I've been a gunshot wound to the face. He had forced me out of our house and had put me in his truck and drove down the street, and that's all I really remember. My name is Melody Megginson. I was shot by my baby dad, and I live with a bullet in my brain. I met my baby's father walking down the street, asking for directions. We met when I first moved down here, and I got pregnant fairly quickly, about a month and a half after I met him. But we were just in a relationship, seeing each other sometimes, going through the pregnancy. Then about a month and a half before He shot me. We moved in together. And a couple days after we moved in together, I had our son. Looking back, I realized we didn't really know each other. I didn't really know him. We just kind of went too fast in the relationship. He owned his own business, and he kind of swayed me and think like he was like a businessman, and he was professional. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't want the baby. I didn't think it was the right time in my life, but I wanted a family. I was trying to do the right thing, be a family for my children and stuff that I never really had. So I tried to stay in the relationship. He just started acting different, started being really controlling, wanting to know where I'm at, who I'm with, what I wear, and stuff like that. I realized the relationship wasn't going to work out. It wasn't what I thought it was. I was trying to make moves to leave the situation, and I think he figured that out. He wanted to go on a date out of nowhere. And when he told me about the date, he said he wanted to go hiking. And I told my cousin, I was like, he wanted to go hiking. And she was like, he wants to go hiking. I think that the plan was he was going to shoot me then and leave me in the woods. So he had put his hands on me a week prior for the first time. He never put his hands on me, no signs of him putting his hands on me or nothing, ever. Then I think he found out I was going to leave, and he was scared because he was out on bond for capital murder, facing the death penalty. So my mom had found out that he put his hands on me and threatened to call the police. I made the mistake of telling her to stay out of it. I got this. And unfortunately, a week later, I was shot. On May 18th, 2019, he wanted me home at 9 o'clock. It was like 9:05. I'm not from here, so I had to use my GPS. He was calling me. I'm down the street. When I get home, he's not there. So I'm calling him like, you wanted me to come home, where you at? But he turned his phone off. He shows up, I don't know what time it was, but in the middle of the night. And he smelled of alcohol, like he was drunk. And he punched me on my side and grabbed me. And he put his gun to my side and said, get in the truck. The children were with me. I don't go anywhere without my children, especially my newborn son. He was only 6 weeks old, and I have a 2-year-old. Last thing I remember is him forcing me in the car at gunpoint and backing the truck up and going down the street and going under that bridge. And then it's just blank.
I didn't know that she was shot for like 4 days. She was like a Jane Doe in the hospital. What happened is somebody called me, and I didn't even know who it was. And they said that Melody was shot. And actually, at first, I didn't believe it. You know, I was like, no way, somebody's playing a prank on me or something, you know. But then I was wondering why Melody wasn't answering her phone. So it started clicking that something was wrong. Then they're trying to figure her out with her tattoos, like on Facebook and stuff like that, and they couldn't find her that way. And she doesn't have a criminal record. And how they actually found out, I believe, was in the truck where he kidnapped her and put her in. They found a piece of paper in the glove box that had Melody's name on it after the police they impounded the vehicle. And then that's when they found out what her name was. First, I dealt with the doctors. They told me she was shot. It was really bad. I got the number to the police department. The Detective Howard is his name. I spoke with him, and he told me that he didn't know for sure whether my daughter was going to make it or not. I said, well, where's her kids? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, she has 2 kids. And I said, she just had a baby. You know, where are my grandkids? And I said, the first thing that came out of my mouth was John Neely. I said, he's the one that did this to my daughter, because he beat her up a week before he shot her. And she was trying to leave the situation. Did an Amber Alert, or they got a hold of John Neely and told him, you need to bring the kids in right now. Where are they? So I don't honestly know how they ended up at the fire department. I don't know how they got there, but somebody dropped him off outside of the fire department. And they have no cameras. I couldn't fly down right away. I had to figure out a plane ticket. I'm on disability, so I had to ask my friends, my family, everybody tried to help me. I had to wait for people to get paid. So it took me like 3 days to get out there. I'm really trying not to cry. I try not to talk about it much because it just upsets me really bad. She was just laying there with all these wires, all these tubes. She had a trach. She couldn't breathe on her own. It was really bad. I didn't know whether she was brain dead. They couldn't really tell me. It was just more like it's a waiting game. The bullets in her brain. She was leaking spinal fluid out of her ear. She was fed through a tube. She had to have a trach to help her breathe for months. She had her mouth wired shut because of the damage in her right side of her face. And she was just laying there, and I grabbed her hand, and her dad grabbed her other hand, and I said, Melody, I'm here. And I said, if you can hear me, just squeeze my hand. And she did. So I was just like so elated, but then, they're telling me, oh, that could just be from the brain. She'll be moving, her like legs and stuff. But they had her arms strapped down, so she couldn't pull anything out. But when she grabbed my hand, I said, okay, she's there.
So when a brain has been injured, whether it be by mechanical force or a penetrating injury, such as a gunshot wound, there are multiple ways that the brain gets injured. One is just strict mechanical forces, so the brain having a shear effect, and one part of the brain staying still while the other is having a forceful impact and movement. There can be injury to blood vessels and key structures within the brain itself that has now been injured, and the integrity of the structure is disrupted, which causes injury. And then you can also have the force causing essentially a shock wave through the brain that also can cause further injury. Chances of survival after penetrating injury to the brain, such as a gunshot wound, is very low.
The swelling of her eyes started to, subside, and she'd start opening up her eyes. And then I asked her if she could see me. And I said, if you can, try to move your hand or your thumb. And so she moved her thumb, so I knew that she could hear me and see me. Well, I cried. I just sat there and cried and held her, but she couldn't speak, and she doesn't know what's really going on at the time. I said, you've been shot, honey. You're in the hospital. You're going to make it. You're going to be okay. You're strong. And she couldn't speak for like 2 months. I believe her mouth was wired shut. So we did like hand signals.
When I woke up in the hospital, I was kind of in a daze. I didn't really know what was going on. I had tubes out my neck. My arms were tied down to the bed. And the sad part is when I first woke up, I wanted to call him, not realizing he was the one who shot me until I realized, because my mom and dad were there, my whole family and stuff, and they were like, he shot you, he shot you, he shot you. The moment I realized that happened, I didn't want to believe it for a while. For a couple months, I didn't want to believe that the person I loved did that to me. I just had a child. And when I did, it turned into anger. Like, how could you do this to me? I was shot with a 4.5 in my face, and the bullet went into my brain. There's no exit wound, so they can't remove it. So my face on the right side is paralyzed now. I'm deaf on this ear, and I have a plate in my head, on the right side of my head. I have a gold weight in my eyelids, so I can close my eye all the way when I sleep. And a VP shunt that drains my brain fluid that keeps me alive. I have to keep that the rest of my life. Because of the gunshot wounds, I have a traumatic brain injury, which is a TBI. So I get frustrated really easily and get angry a lot. It's gotten better, but I'm still working on it. And then on top of that, I have seizures now. So it's hard to try to process and deal with, but I'm learning on coping mechanisms and trying to relearn how to do a lot. I had to relearn how to walk, speak. They made me take parenting classes, domestic violence classes, do a psychological evaluation, have stable and safe housing, and take drug screens. Y'all like that? What is that? Is that trained? Having to fight for my children while going through the recovery process was a challenge, and I felt like it was unfair as a victim to have my kids took and then having to fight for them like that. I understand that first for medical reasons, but after that, I got letters from my doctors, letters from the detective stating that I was shot, I was a victim. And still having to go through that process was hard. I just got my case closed 2 years later after being shot. And I'm grateful for that. That I have my babies because they're what kept me alive. But it was hard. It was a challenge having to limp into classes after a 10-hour surgery, trying to get my babies back, and still it wasn't good enough. My oldest boy was afraid of me when I first was shot. My youngest boy didn't know who I was, and it broke my heart. I felt like it was stolen from me a lot. I didn't get to see his first foods, first crawl, first rollover, first walk, first birthday, because he was just 6 weeks old when I was shot. And that's stuff I can't get back. It was really hard to heal without my children. I wanted to give up a lot. Like, why did I survive? I used to wish I would have died that night, to be honest with you. I don't feel like I said I love my life today. It's a blessing. God's kept me here for a reason, and I plan on fulfilling that reason. It made me want to cry when I first seen that the doctors didn't think I was going to survive. That it was that serious. Because I don't remember that night very well. When I read the police report and saying that, it made me thank God that I'm still here, because a lot of people don't make it. I try to emphasize on the part he wasn't beating me up every day, that it was really mostly the controllingness. There's mental, emotional, and physical abuse. And just because it's not physical does not mean it's not abuse. And people need to pay attention to that, because I made the mistake of not to. He's not putting his hands on me. It's not abuse. I'm okay. We're just getting an argument, not realizing that it's bigger than that. It made me feel like they don't care about poor young Black women, to be honest with you. I feel like if I was somebody else, that it would have got more attention, would have got more time. I categorize it as a miracle. Everyone tells me that. Doctors tell me that I should not have survived. Period. I got a 4 or 5 in my brain, walking around living, because they can't remove it. It's too dangerous to remove. But I got all my functions. I could be worse. So I'm definitely blessed, a miracle. God's got a purpose for me, and He's not done with me yet. Until I fulfill that purpose, then it wasn't my time to go. And my babies. I love my babies. But most important, I don't know what the purpose is yet, but it's something, because people don't survive a bullet to the brain. So I'm just grateful that He picked me.
Like I said, you guys, trigger warning. And I realize all of you guys can go watch this yourselves, and I will link it down in the description below. But I wanted us to share that with you so we can watch that together, because I just want to say, I'm not saying that Melody will ever see this, but you are literally one of the strongest women I have ever seen. Can you imagine being a victim, getting a brain injury, and having to fight for your children, and having to go get letters from police officers and doctors, get letters on your behalf to tell people, to tell, children's services and different places that you were the victim? Can you imagine having to go through that on top of what you're already going through? There are so many stories out there, and I will share as many as possible. DV is something that is very, very dear to my heart, because I could have been in a bad situation myself at a very, very young age. And like I said, like I mentioned prior to playing this, that there is a stigma around DV. And a lot of people still to this day, especially younger women and men, who think, oh, he loves me. He cares about where I'm going. He cares about what I'm doing. He cares about what I'm wearing. No. Like, I can see, as far as like a little bit what you're wearing and things like that, but you have to pay attention to those signs, because it's still abuse. Mental and verbal abuse is still abuse. And you never know what that can turn into. And unfortunately for Melody, it turned into getting shot in the head. Now, I think what stands out to me is that, she didn't know that he had a past. Melody didn't know that he had a murder charge. I think it's very important, especially nowadays. And I don't think it's something that we are programmed to do. More and more people are now, but it's very important to research the person that you're dating. It sucks, especially if you meet that person on the internet, but I don't think it matters where you meet that person. It's important to do your research, because you just never know what type of person you could be dating, what type of person you could be laying in the bed with, what type of person that you ultimately end up having a child with. Of course, in no way, shape, or form is that her fault. I'm just saying that it just breaks my heart that she's so young and she had to basically, just from those things happening, she had to look back. She noticed the signs, and I'm sure she probably wished that she would have researched him as well. But in no way, shape, or form is that anybody's fault. But I do think that it should always be encouraged to research the person that you're dating. And I don't think that's something that most people think of, like I really, really don't. I think that it's something that needs to be stressed immensely. And I think that it's something that people need to bring awareness about. It's not about being nosy. It's about your life, and it's about knowing the person that you're with. And I'm sure that's the last thing she thought of, just like so many other women out there. But that's why I think there should be awareness to that. How to do research. Some people don't even know, like, yeah, you can type in somebody's name, but then there's other things that you can do to get deeper. And no, you shouldn't just do that to anybody you meet, but anyone that you're romantically involved with, I do believe 100% you should research that person. And I'm sure from now on, that's what Melanie will do. But I cannot believe that this story wasn't worldwide, because for someone as strong as her, who has survived this and is walking around with a bullet in her brain, got custody of her kids, and on top of that, her humbleness and her wanting to make sure that she is bringing awareness and education to women and men who are in any type of DV relationship. I find that very, very noble. And I also find that it shows her character, what a beautiful woman she is inside and out. And even though she has a brain injury, look at her. She is still absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I personally think that the man who did this to her should be in jail for the rest of his life. I don't know how he got away with only getting 20 years, but in my opinion, he should have gotten life. He literally, it's attempted murder, but in the same sense, like this is someone who's walking around with a bullet in her brain, and he caused that. That she's going to have to struggle for the rest of her life. Health-wise, you heard her say that she's having seizures now, and she was in a coma for 2 months. She had to fight for her life. No way should he have gotten 20 years, in my opinion. I don't care what anybody says. And just, she's an inspiration to me. When I seen this story, like I said, I've held it very, very close to my heart, because, like I said, I think she's one of the strongest women I have ever seen. Like, never seen, obviously, physically, but to hear her story it's amazing. And it's a blessing that she is still here. And it's a blessing that she fought for her children. She's such a strong, beautiful woman. So I wanted to share this story with you guys, because I think that there is a lot of things that need to be talked about when it comes to a story like this. For one, you need to definitely be aware of the person that you're dating, pay attention to those signs, and don't question those signs either. when you have, when you're dating someone and they're controlling in any way, shape, or form, don't question yourself. Get rid of them. That's just, it may be hard, I know, but it's necessary. And to research anybody that you date, anybody that you meet. I don't care where you meet them at. I don't care if you meet them through a family member. Still research them, because you just never know. You never know. And I'm going to pull something else up really quickly to show you guys the reality of DV and how serious this is and how much it needs to be talked about more. So 1 second here. Let me share my screen. I don't know why it's not coming up, but I'm just going to share my entire screen here. Okay. Boy, is this different doing, don't get me wrong, I like the pre-recorded. I think it's cool, but it's different. It's different not having that interaction. So let me pull this up if I could find it. Hold on. Which I just screenshot it, so I know that it's on here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to make this bigger. Whoops, so you guys could see this. I need to leave that open because there's a couple things that I want to show you guys. Make that big, big, big. Okay. It says, what is true DV? DV, also called intimate partner violence, is a pattern of abusive behavior in a relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power and control over another partner. These acts of violence are coincide, I can never pronounce that word, are committed by people of all genders against people of all genders. I think that's important. I think we thank God for Johnny Depp and the trial of making it very public of the things that he endured from Amber Heard, because I think it kind of broke that stigma, because DV, there is no gender bias with it. So I think it's important to know that. Okay, so I want to show you guys the statistics really quick here. Not that one. I'm trying to make this one bigger. Okay, that's good. The CSEW estimates of DV are based on relatively broad definition covering male and female victims of partner or family non-physical abuse, threats, force, SA, or stalking. The latest statistics show some 7% of women and 5% of men were estimated to have experienced DV in the 2011-2012, equivalent to an estimated 1.2 million females and 800,000 male victims. Overall, 31% of women and 18% of men had experienced any DV since the age of 16. These figures were equivalent to an estimated 5.0 million female victims of DV abuse and 2.9 million male victims between the ages of 16 and 59. The chart below shows the estimated number of victims of any DV reported in the self-completion module on intimate violence in the CSEW since 2004/2005. So that number is 1.2 million for women, 800,000 for males. So overall, 31% of women and 18% of men have experienced a DV relationship at the age of 16. And then 5.0 million female victims of DV and 2.9 male victims between the ages of 16 and 59. Imagine, this was in 2011, 2012. Imagine what those statistics are now. This is just something that I found and pulled up, but it's 2022. So imagine how much that number has estimated since back then. That is important because, like I said, and there's a picture of the beautiful Melanie Megginson, and she's absolutely beautiful. Like, I don't feel, obviously it has caused some effects, but she is still absolutely gorgeous. But the thing is that to know that there are, so many women out there who are right now in a relationship, in a DV relationship, I don't think it's talked about enough, you guys. I think it needs to be talked about way, way more than what it is. And like I said, hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so like I said, I will talk about this way more. What is the point of that? I gotta fix my backdrop. Hold on. You guys, this backdrop, I never have it close enough, but it's just gonna have to do. Let's see how it looks now. Yeah, no. Hey, I tried, you guys. But here, let's go like that. That's better. There we go. You just got to maneuver a little bit. But I wasn't even going to come on camera because obviously, like I said, this is emotional. And it's emotional for me. And I will make sure that there are resources in the description for anyone, if there's you or someone you know that is in a DV relationship, that there are resources that you can reach out to. You're not alone. There are so many women out there who are going through this. And I just think it is very, very important to always pay attention to the signs. And I wanted to share Melanie's story with you, Melanie, because like I said, it's just a story that I've seen. And I scheduled this live months ago and I couldn't do it. It was too hard. And it's still hard. That's why I wanted this live stream to be pre-recorded. But I will be talking about this more. I will be bringing more awareness about these, DV relationships and the signs to look for, and to not take those signs lightly, and to not be afraid to reach out for help, because there's so much help out there when it comes to a DV relationship. So I'm very, very honored to do this story. And if Melanie runs into this story one day, and you never know, she might, if she goes on YouTube, I just want her to know how beautiful and strong she is. Beautiful inside and out. And literally, like I said, one of the strongest women I've ever seen, to overcome so many obstacles and to have to fight for your children, fight for your life, you know. And when I think about her story too, it also makes me think about Vaughn. And I think the reason why it makes me think about Vaughn is because here he is in a coma fighting for his life. And that's why I say, you guys, there's always hope. You know, the doctors told Melody that, you know, they told her loved one she's not going to make it. And here she is doing wonderful and thriving. Obviously, she's going to have obstacles and problems in her life. But in the same sense, she's still here. And that's what matters. And she has her children. That's what matters. She overcame all of these obstacles in her life. She overcame being shot in the head, you guys. And she's here. So I still, you know, even watching this story again, that gives me hope for Vaughn too. Because Melody was in a coma for 2 months, you know. For those that don't believe in things, that's on them. But that doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, Vaughn could overcome this. He definitely can. And like with Melody's case, she still, you know, she has a brain injury, but she's still thriving. She learned how to walk again. She learned how to talk again. She had to learn how to move her body again. She had to learn how to do everything all over again. And it gives me hope for, you know, victims who are in a coma fighting for their life, in my opinion, like Vaughn. So I hope you guys learn something from watching this. I'm glad that I was able, if you've never heard Melody's story, I'm glad I was able to introduce this story to you. All kinds of resources, as many as I can list, will be in my description. So you guys, if you know someone who's in a DV relationship, you know, if you yourself is in a DV relationship, please understand that there's help out there. And please know that you're not alone. You're not alone. And it was an honor talking about Melody's story and introducing this story to you guys. So I will keep you updated about Melody. This happened last year, I think it happened. So like I said, I don't know what's going on with her GoFundMe. I'll find all of those things out when I start the Facebook for us, which should probably be in a couple days. But thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys like this pre-recorded live. I'm only going to do this sometimes though, because I would prefer the interaction. But for this, I just felt like I needed to do this pre-recorded. So I love y'all. I hope you have an amazing rest of your night. Please make sure that if you're new here, you subscribe before you leave if you haven't already. Make sure you press the notification bell too, because that's going to notify you of all my future uploads. And thumbs up, please. Love y'all. Or thumbs down, whatever. It's all interaction. You guys are amazing. And thank you for listening to Melody's story. And if you have any questions, just leave it in the chat or the comments below, and I will try my best to answer them. And God bless Melody. I think she's amazing. I think she is such a strong woman. And I hope one day she does watch this, because I just want her to know that she's my hero. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Love y'all so much. Deuces. Let's bring up the bye-bye.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing.